Publishing, a very unique name. Ukiyoto comes from two Japanese words, Ukiyo and Kyoto. Ukiyo is the eternal effect created when looked towards the sun from between the leaves, while Kyoto symbolizes capital. Hence, Ukiyoto means capital of creativity. So, by that inception of the name only, you can just imagine how interesting this video podcast will be for the entire audience. So, Ukiyoto Publishing was founded in January 2019 by Mr. Arjun Chaudhuri. He has a vast experience and knowledge and expertise in business and has also joined us today on this BiZNation TV video podcast to share about the very idea of Ukiyoto. A very warm welcome, Mr. Arjun. A few words on your presence, please.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, sir. So, in such a short span of time, the Ukiyoto Publishing has its presence in across 70 countries, right, across the world, and has already completed more than 2,500 publishing works. So, Mr. Arjun, to just begin with the video podcast, I'd just like to ask that how this platform, the Ukiyoto Publishing, has emerged for the various target audiences. How it has basically emerged, and how was the idea behind it? If you could just brief regarding that.
Yeah, so when we just started up, we thought of creating a platform which will be into publishing and which will identify the talent of those who are not getting sufficient exposure, but they would be having a lot of creativity and they need exposure and they need the world to know. So we started researching on parts like rural India, on places like in Asia and Africa, and certain places where big players like Amazon or Alibaba doesn't have a foray. So then we started identifying quality content of those authors and writers. And then we had our own team of editing, proofreading, designing, everything, polishing those content, and then making it available in places where it is more in abundance, like in metro cities, in US, UK, Europe, and everywhere. So over a period of time, what happened was people liked our work. Our quality was the main thing that they liked, our responsiveness, and even our creativity. So once they liked, more and more people started joining in and coming to us, and they started writing to us. And that's how we started. So we started very small. We started with hardly some 10 or 15 authors for the initial 6 months. And then after 6 or 7 months, when people started getting our work and getting our creativity done, then it suddenly shot up to 200 and 300. And right now we have around 2,500 in around some 7 or 8 months. We've grown to that level. And reaching about countries, so we have created our own distribution network and systems where we have our own people situated in places like Russia, in places of Asia, Africa, US, and we route it via different kind of logistics to make it as economical as possible. So from a bookstore, if you buy a book from one place in Europe or anywhere else, it will cost you the same as that of a local city or a shipment. So this clicked a lot, and yeah, that's how we proceeded.
Yeah. So, Mr. Arjun, as you mentioned that you are connected with various authors, right? So that publishing you get, it is completely edited part, or you have a team which works upon that again once you get the content from the authors?
So we have usually 3 different teams. One is the market research part, who identifies which are the good guys to be taken up or which work is required to be produced. We don't charge any authors. There is no charge for the authors. It's completely traditional. What the earning comes from the sale of the books and the revenue. Okay. So first is the research team, which takes care of which are the guys to be picked up, which book is to be published. Once that takes care, next portion is that content that we receive is further polished by the editing team. So that gets further polished. Then the next part is designing the layout and the structure. So we have a designing team which does that. And then finally it produces, and then the marketing carries on. Marketing, distribution, populating to bookstores, to journals, authors, and well-known authors to get their reviews and all that. So actually there are 4 steps, not 3, 4 steps, yeah.
Okay, so as you mentioned, I just summed that up, that is one is marketing team who looks upon to entire how to market the authors which have done with you. Right? Second is the research team who looks upon to the content which needs to be brought up onto this platform. And then comes the editing and the content upliftment team.
Right. So the marketing comes last. Marketing is post-production. First comes the research. Identifying these guys. First you have to identify the guys and then the process starts.
All right. So it is research, content, and marketing.
Exactly. Right.
All right.
So even in the research,
Okay,
since we have grown up so well, we keep on getting applications that people send us their manuscripts to get published. So that way also we already get applications to scrutinize.
Okay, that's great. So, Mr. Arjun, I'd just like to ask that how the platform of Ukiyoto Publishing works for publishers. If you could just give a detailed outlook upon to that, if anyone is looking upon this podcast, that would be knowledgeable for them as well to have an idea that how the organization works and how they can benefit from you as a complete organization if they join with you.
Okay, so you mean to say as in joining us as in the group or as an author?
As an author and as a publisher, if anyone reaches out to you.
Okay, so if anyone reaches out to them, there are two ways. Yeah, there are usually two ways. One is as an author, we will first scrutinize your work and see if it is good to go for production and all. Then it goes in the usual process that I just described, which is the main thing that we do. Second is as a B2B organization, as a distributor or somebody who wants to take our books, products, or we have got audiobooks as well, takes and then sell it in their country. So we have a distribution model. So it's a distribution come a franchising model. So since we have our own network, own printing facilities, own publication, everything comes at a very, very lower cost for them to enjoy a higher margin and a bracket. So that is how these guys get connected to us. So we have got distributors in Asia, we've got distributors in Europe and all. So they are usually called distributors because we are the publishers ourselves. So they are distributors of our work and they distribute further and they enjoy high margins. And we are also inviting distributors further on.
Okay, I got it. When you are saying that they are further distributors and you're also working on a franchise model where you can further distribute your franchise to some
franchises and distributors, exactly. So we have our own books. Let's say now we want to distribute in bulk in 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 lots in, let's say, Russia or somewhere. So we will have a distributor coming, not even Russia, even in India, let's say, even in some city, if we have a distributor or a bookstore wholesaler coming up. So we give in a bulk model and then, of course, how it works with the wholesaler price. Then they enjoy the discounts.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I just ask you that you're running an organization since 2019. Everyone has a vision behind an organization, right? So I just like to ask, what is the main vision of Ukiyoto Publishing and how is it helping young minds through your platform? How young minds are benefiting?
So our main motto is nurturing talent worldwide, which means we have to identify talent and give them the proper exposure and recognize them. So that is the main motto. And now while recognizing them, we also have to make it available everywhere with blanket coverage. That is the vision that we have, that we will make a blanket coverage across the entire world so that anybody who buys a book from the store, it should not feel that you're importing a product with a very high cost. It should be as low as less than $1, which is maybe a cup of a coffee. So if you're buying from US also, it should cost you $1. If you're buying from our store also, we'll be able to sell it at $1 shipping price. So first is identify the talent and then giving it a proper exposure and recognition across the world at optimum cost and best quality. So that is what we are aiming for. Yeah.
Okay. So I just like to add on second. So I just like to ask you that how are you catering to the audience at such a large scale? As you rightly mentioned, you're catering to around 70 countries and more than 2,500 publishings have been done. So how is this catering being done at such a large scale and in such a short span of time? That is, you just started in 2019 for the same, and you have, as I said rightly, you have more than 2,500 publishings. So if you could just share the back end of the basic Ukiyoto Publishing, and anyone can have a complete idea about that.
Right. So it definitely requires a large team, lot of manpower, lot of capital investment and all. But there is a smarter way of doing that. So what we have done, or the same way as we identify authors and writers who are quality, we also identify our employees fortunately, and we've got a great team to work out with who can do multitasking. So the same person does many kind of work. And we first of all assess our employees for a period of time, and then only we take them on board. So it is like a short team which can do multitasking enabled with technology. So we have incorporated technology like blockchain, NLP, which is into artificial intelligence, which reduces a lot of manpower for us. So in that way, we are able to scrutinize or curate a lot of the content which comes in a very short span of time. Now, regarding logistics, we have separate outsourced parties for logistics, and that goes off. So that goes off as and when the book, as and when the order comes. So that is also very fast. So we can put 1 or 2 manpower at the most to coordinate with that logistics partner to take care of everything. So that's how we have a small team, and we aim to get a better returns or expand in a larger scale.
Right. So Kyoto Publishing is basically a publishing house at a very large scale, right? So
Right.
I just like to ask that. I would just like to ask you that what has been your education background, because this is a completely diverse business which you are into. It is a completely diverse kind of business which you are running. So I just like to ask, for if a young entrepreneur is watching this and gets inspired to do any kind of business in which they think, which does not relate to their education background, whatever it may be. So I just like to ask to share your education background and how you came into Kyoto Publishing to run it as an organization.
Yes. So usually education background is required, but after a certain part of time, a certain point in time, it depends on how your intellect or how your passion will take you forward and how smart you can move around. Otherwise, it becomes a bit difficult to sustain with a profitable business model for a long time. So my education background is I did engineering from NIT Durgapur, and I'm a electronics engineer. Then I joined Idea Cellular in telecom, and then I worked for around 3 years. Then went on to do my MBA with IMT, and after that I joined a Malaysian company for retail, followed by I was into education in Time Private Limited, and a part of it in the water resources. Then I followed my passion. I was already into writing, and then I started this business on my own, and started involving a bit of my educational technology part into integrating this technology along with the publication module. And that's how I proceeded forward. So it is not actually very diverse, but a little bit of it is related.
Okay. So one thing very peculiar you mentioned in running an organization is sustainability over a period of time, right? So catching upon that word, I'll just request you to share that how sustainability can help growing business, and how you will just sum it up in a few points that how a young entrepreneur can get inspired to sustain their business if they are entering into a new kind of business, or they're starting up a new venture, or if they have a unique idea and they do not get that kind of results initially, how they should sustain, what kind of mentality they should have when they start a business. If you can share through your experience, that will be really helpful.
So to start off with, I will say that if a young entrepreneur wants to start up with a startup and then move on to a sustainable business or create a sustainable business, assuming that there is no funding, no inherited property, no wealth at all, the first thing should be kept in mind is that you should be able to deliver on your own, and you should be able to work on your own. So if you are working in, let's say, technology or publishing or anywhere, you should be know in and out of the product that you're working with, and you should be able to contribute. That is how you will absorb maximum costs yourself. So if you are absorbing 90% of the cost, you don't have to pay anyone. Start from scratch. Second thing is you should know how to sell yourself. That is the main thing. Many of the movies also will tell you, I think Wolf of Wall Street or somewhere, that the first thing how you begin is how you sell yourself or sell your business. So you should know how to sell yourself. Secondly, how you should know the product in and out and do the work yourself, not depend on managers or several people below you. That is the first thing that you should do. Now, when starting forward, then gradually you start on expanding. Maybe have manpower and then figure out what is he going to do. Don't have too much manpower or too much capital assets built up. Right now, you have a lot of outsourced services. You can outsource HR, you can outsource admin, accounts, everything. Let that headache completely go off, and you focus only on your product and selling. So I think that's how the sustainability will grow. And of course, most importantly, what is that product that you're selling? Is there a demand for it? So the demand has to be there. Otherwise, you may create a temporary solution and that will go off after 1 or 2 years of that. So that should not happen. Yeah.
Okay,
so if there is a demand, there is a need, and there is a future in that, then only it will work out well. And of course, along with your hard work and sincerity.
Yeah. So as you rightly
You
said,
know what they're doing. I mean, if they are building a computer, you should know what is getting into that computer, how the computer works, what is it that the computer is going to do different from the existing computers. And they should be able to build that on their own, not have several people building it for you. Of course,
definitely.
enhancements, you cannot do everything on your own. Enhancements will require different professionals or specialists, but that can come later. First thing is you should know on your own how to do that stuff. That is how you absorb the cost, and you also don't depend on somebody else.
Definitely.
And
So
then the selling comes here.
yeah, we can make a complete podcast on this particular topic itself, that
Right.
how an idea can be sustaining one, and if it is not, why it should not be continued in the future if the prospect or the product is not made considering the future markets.
Right, exactly.
Right. So, Mr. Chaudhuri, it was a pleasure having you on the BiZNation TV video podcast. Thank you so much for your presence. If you
It's
would
my
like to
pleasure
add
to be
anything
with you. Yeah.
before concluding this podcast today.
It's my pleasure to be with you as well, and it's an honor to be a part of the program.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Have a very good evening.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.